You are listening to the Young Black Travelers Podcast. Black voices conversing on experiential travel, dedicated to creating a global community of travelers. Be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Young Black Travelers Podcast. So as you guys know, my name is Asher Cunningham, and I am the founder and host of today's podcast. And on today's episode, we are following up a conversation we had a few months ago with our guest. I'm going to have him reintroduce himself, but you would have, if you were listening to the podcast episode, the last episode that was released, you kind of know who he is, but I'm going to give him the mic so he can reintroduce himself to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Cunningham. So again, my name is Ronald Wilder. I attend the Eagle Academy for Young Men in Staten Island, which is in New York City. I'm a youth advocate for my community here in Staten Island. I'm originally from the Bronx.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Fun fact, right? I'm originally
fact.
from the Bronx. But now I'm in Staten Island, and this is where I'm doing most of my work, advocating for my communities.
Wow, that's actually pretty dope, Ronald. And so I didn't know you were originally from the Bronx, so BX, big
Yes,
up
represent the X.
Which one do you prefer, the Bronx or Staten Island? Real answer, and not because you live in Staten Island now.
Honestly, I have to be real. I love Staten Island. I honestly, I can't choose between the both because I'm here and it's like, I love it, and I'm in the X and it's just like, I love it too. I think the difference between the two is just culture, but there's a lot of culture. There's different cultures, within each borough. And I think that I've been, blessed and fortunate enough to have, the experience of both.
That's actually pretty dope. I'm excited that you brought up culture because clearly our conversation is going to be a follow-up of Puerto Rico. So when you bring up culture and you identify the different cultures in both borough, that is pretty significant. And so when you say that, what is the predominant culture that is probably present in Staten Island, and probably what is the predominant culture that is present in the BX?
So I could definitely say that they have it in common. It's definitely Hispanics. It's a lot of Puerto Ricans and it's a lot of Dominicans.
Okay.
So I would definitely say Hispanics is one of the main, races within, both boroughs. But then I would also say it would just be African American would also be one of the main, races and cultures that we have within the X and also within Staten Island. So those are the two I can say are the main.
That is good. Okay, so you mentioned that you are a student at the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island. So we are recording this podcast now. It's in June. So those of you who are listening to the episode, we're recording now in June. And so and you're a high school student, correct?
Yes, I am.
You're a high school student. What year are you in?
So I'll be graduating in 2029.
2029.
So we'll be in a new building when I graduate. But right now it's 2026. I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman. And
yes.
So around it's June in New York City, there's this thing called Region. So I want you to give our listeners, because we have listeners from across the world and across the country, and Regions is a very New York thing. So
yes,
I learned that you just did a Region. So what is a Regent exam?
So a Regent exam is just kind of like a very big final that, that the state requires in order for us to graduate high school. So it's just kind of like this big test that's preparing us to graduate in order for us to move on to college or whatever our next plans after high school is. So today I actually took my ELA Regent before hopping on here and joining on the podcast with you. And it was good. I mean, it's always challenging. ELA is my favorite subject. I want to be a prosecutor when I get older.
Okay.
So I love ELA very well. I'm a good writer. So yeah, it's Regents is something that most New York students, especially around my age now, are starting to become accustomed to and used to. But I want to say that I want to thank the school, especially Mr. Cameron, for allowing the scholars within our school to take the region early in order for us to be, more prepared for whatever comes next. So, like, let's say if I don't pass this region, which, I will.
Come on, confidence. I love
Confidence,
that.
yes, you got to stay positive. You have to stay positive.
Yeah.
I'll be able to take it in August. And if I don't take it in August, I'll be able to take it next year because I'm a freshman. I was never supposed to take a regent this year. It was always supposed to be from my sophomore year and up. And I took one last year when I was in middle school, which was like, I think science. I think it was living environment or biology.
Okay.
And I passed it with an 80, which was the highest out of everybody that took the regent that year.
Wow.
And I'm and now this year I was able to take sophomore classes as a freshman within science. So if I pass ELA, regent, I take the Earth and Space Science next week, and also the algebra the day after the Earth and Space. So if I pass all three regents, I'll be taking junior classes as a sophomore.
That is impressive, Ronald. And I know you're going to get through, and I know you're going to pass. This is good. I mean, you actually give our listeners a good viewpoint of the New York City system, right? So as you mentioned, the Regents exam is one of a huge final, right? It's required, mandated for all students to take. In fact, I think there's probably about 7 that they have to pass, 7 or 8 of them that they have to pass. So like that's ELA, as you said, you took science, different, I think earth science or chemistry, different types of science. So it's one of those standards, particularly in New York State. And so one of the things we want to highlight is that across the United States, there's not a general standard in the exams that students take, but in New York State, the Regent exam is one of those standard. And so one of the tests that many people may know is the SATs, which is a standard one of the tests that people use to get into college. But the Regents exam is simply an exam that people need to graduate high school. And it's really commendable that you are actually ahead of the curve and you're trying to take these exams, and you'll probably be done probably by the time you're a junior and looking on to other things, so probably like AP classes.
Hopefully, listen, I'm taking an AP class this year. Actually, I'm taking advanced algebra, which is why I'm able to take the algebra regent this year.
It's actually impressive again, Ronald, that you are doing these regents ahead. And as you mentioned, hopefully you definitely have some breaks. If you're literally ahead of the curve right now, so I'm assuming by the time you're a junior, you'll probably be done with everything. You'll probably be focusing on college now classes, maybe AP classes. So this is actually pretty dope. Last question for you before we go to break. You know, right now, New York is in a frenzy because, one of our teams finally made the NBA playoff. The Knicks are in the playoffs. So
yes, they are.
I'm wearing the Nets today just because I don't have any Knicks jersey. But
I was about to say,
it is what it is. But who do you predict is going to win the NBA Finals?
Oh, listen here. So I'm a New Yorker down. Like I'm 10 toes behind New York. I love New York City. Born and raised here. I continue on to live here when I get older, come back and, continue my work here, as a prosecutor. And the Knicks got this 100%. 100%. I listen, we're going to be Knicks in 4. I know we didn't win last night's, game, but that's okay. It's a minor setback, right? We see, I'm not going to, throw any shots out there, but we see who attended the game. I feel like that's why we lost. But what I want us to realize is that we're New Yorkers, right? And we fight hard, and we win. We don't lose. We don't like losing. And I think that's something that the Spurs have to, be careful about, because we don't give up. We're resilient.
Yeah. So, by the way, Ronald just did a dig at Mr. President Donald Trump. So Donald Trump attended the game yesterday, and many people are speculating that the bad juju that Donald brought is the reason why the Knicks lost.
I'm just saying, Mr. Cunningham, if we're being honest, if we want to just, look at the records from the games before, I mean, a 13 clean winning streak without, one single loss. And then yesterday, out of nowhere, when we have, the president join, we lose the game. I mean, it's I don't really find that as a coincidence. I don't find it as ironic either.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's but let me say this. This is just my personal opinion
Yes.
on this matter. I've always said I personally don't mind, and I actually think it was commendable that a president actually attended the game. However, I don't think this president is the president we all wanted. Clearly, he's the president for now.
Right.
We all wanted to attend the game. So, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he brought some bad luck to the Knicks. So let's see what happens. So you're going to be watching or listening to this podcast after the next game. But fingers crossed, come Wednesday night, the Knicks win another game. They'll be playing at home, and they do it. And they knock this out soon because, again, right after the finals, technically the finals could actually also go right into the FIFA World Cup. So we kind of need this to be over soon because
we need to be over real soon.
The World Cup is also in New York City, which New York City is a buzz this summer.
It's a buzz this summer.
Yeah. And are you rooting for any particular football team,
soccer team? I'm going to be honest with you. I do not watch football or, as it's known in New York City, soccer. I'm honestly, it's basketball for me or it's football. Basketball, football.
Typical Americans. So that's not a surprising response. Let me tell you. So the biggest game in the world, most Americans, it's a newer thing to Americans.
Yes.
But hopefully this summer, maybe some New Yorkers really get into the spirit, go to some of those watch parties. I know they have them just in different places in the city, just like they've been having the basketball finals watch party.
Yes.
So definitely New York is a buzz over the next few weeks. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably trying to figure out where should I go next. Listen, drive into New York, fly into New York. This is the place to be. We're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we are going to continue this conversation with Ronald. So stay tuned. Welcome back to this conversation. Again, we have with us today Ronald, who is a student from the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island. And as you all know by now, YBT sponsored Ronald to go to Puerto Rico in the spring on their spring break.
Yes.
The trip is now done. We did a part one of this conversation. The part one was when before Ronald departed. And so now Ronald has gone to Puerto Rico. Ronald has experienced the culture. And so he's here now to share his experience with us. So we want to hear, I know one of the questions I asked when we were talking back in February was, you said you'd never gone on a plane. And you clearly did. So tell us, to walk us through that experience. How was that experience?
So I just off the rip of going to the airport, right? When you first get there, I feel like it's so intense and chaotic. I mean, people are so angry. They're trying to drop people off. Everybody's trying to, board their planes and get to their terminals on time. That way, they don't get left. But I feel like it was an experience for me. Like, it was ineffable. I can't, find any words to explain it. But it was very positive. I can say that. Like, it just being able to go through TSA and, interact with other people on the line and seeing where other people were traveling to. It Yeah, it was really great. It was great.
Ronald, I mean, listen, I know you're Mr. Politician, you're a future prosecutor, so clearly you're the Mr. Conversational. That is a thing that a lot of people don't do, right? Like those the small talk about clearly everyone in the airport is going to different destinations, right? So where
Yeah.
unless you're probably in a small town where there's only one flight leaving that day. So clearly if you're in a small town listening to this, all of you are going to the same location or probably
Right.
same hub to go to somewhere else.
Right.
But you went to one of the New York City's major international airports, and so people were going to different locations. So what were some of the places that you discovered people were going?
So it was very ironic because, you know, some people were actually going to Puerto Rico just like us. So I thought it was cool. Other places that people were going were like, you know, Haiti. And you know, these are people from all different types of backgrounds.
Wow.
Yeah, all different types of backgrounds. People going to Haiti, some people going to DR. It was actually so funny. One of my friends had texted me. He had seen me in the airport and he was on his way to go to DR. So I was telling him, I'm like, you know, it's my first time getting on a plane. I'm heading to Puerto Rico. And what I've realized is once I got to the island was how close the Caribbean islands are to one another. So I made a little joke to, you know, Ms. Velasquez and Jaden. Jaden was next to me on the plane. I'm like, man, if we wanted to stay out here longer and just go to any other Caribbean island, let's just rent a boat and let's go. But yeah, it was very eye-opening for me to see, like, yes, I was going to Puerto Rico, but the world is so much bigger than New York City and Puerto Rico, and there's so much more for me to explore.
Wow. Wow. That
Yeah.
is actually pretty dope. I mean, those are typical airport experiences, especially at the time you were traveling. You were traveling during spring break. So therefore, a lot of your colleagues, your friends would be probably traveling at
Yes.
the same time.
Yeah.
And yes, it is definitely true that not all the Caribbean islands are close to each other, but some of them are really
Most of them,
close to each
yes.
other, right? So like DR and Puerto Rico are
Right
definitely
there.
closer to each
Yes.
other. So it is, and you also probably bring up an important point, which is a conversation we probably need to have. Is though a lot of the Caribbean islands are actually closer to each other. So, I mean, they're not. So when we make that statement, we're not saying like you can just jump from Jamaica to Puerto Rico
Oh
or Jamaica
no.
to St. Vincent, because I know Jamaica to St. Vincent probably is about 2-3 hours, right? But nonetheless, there are islands that are close to each other, like the DRs, the Puerto Rico, or the St. Lucia, St. Vincent. But one of the things we do know about the Caribbean, particularly, is that traveling around the Caribbean may not be the easiest, and so as you get older, hopefully by the time you're just booking your own flights and going wherever you want to go, hopefully by that time transportation or connectivity around the Caribbean would be very different than it is right now. But that is definitely a point that we really, hopefully, the governments of the region really look at this issue. I know some regions are more connected than others, but it is a major point that we want to ensure that the Caribbean islands as a whole, there's major connectivity versus instead of someone maybe from St. Vincent who wants to go to Jamaica, flying all the way up to Miami to get to Jamaica, they can literally fly from St. Vincent to Jamaica. So
Right.
that's that. But I guess the first question, well, second question I have for you is, so you got to Puerto Rico, you got off the plane. At what point, was it like, wow, I'm in Puerto Rico? Like it hit you? Like at what point? What was that moment?
As soon as I got off that plane, I mean, you get hit with heat. You get hit with heat. So it was definitely, that wake up call was definitely on a descent. I would say it started even before I got off the plane. It happened when I was on the plane, but we were over the actual island of Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
When I woke up from my nap, I noticed, because you know you get wake up from the announcements. I had movie playing and headphones on.
Okay.
I opened up my window because I had a window seat,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, this water is so blue, so blue. So when I realized that I was in Puerto Rico was definitely when I was on the plane. But when I really woke up, it was when I got hit by that heat coming off the plane.
Got you.
That's when I woke up.
And, and okay, so you got out the airport. You got hit by the heat, so now you're outside.
Yes.
Um, what was it like engaging with Spanish? Because I'm sure at one point now you start realizing that there's just a lot of Spanish around you, and clearly you are in Puerto Rico, which is also part of America. And
Yes.
how did you, I guess, rationalize all that, come to terms with all that? What was your emotions? What was happening?
Honestly, you know, it's something that you're going to hear from anybody that you talk about, that you talk to, that went on the trip with me was I could not come to the realization that I was in Puerto Rico. I had
Oh,
to keep reminding myself, I'm like, Ronald, you are literally in Puerto Rico right now.
oh,
And I kept every single, Mr. Cunningham, I could you not, every single day. Ronald, you are in Puerto Rico. Whether if I saw a random bird, if I saw a palm tree, if I
okay.
went to one of their local supermarkets and saw the difference between, you know, the ones that we have in, on like, you know, homeland, versus the one that they have on the island. It was crazy. Like it was a crazy experience. I still can't even like really just like process that I went to Puerto Rico.
So what was it that made it difficult for you to process that you were in Puerto Rico? Like, what was
Because
it? Was it shock? Yeah. What
you
was
know what
it?
I think it was? I think it was definitely shock. I think
Okay.
it was shock, but it was also just me so full of excitement,
Mm,
and enthusiasm and optimism. But for me, I think it was definitely shock. I think shock played a very big role, and I'm gonna say why. Um,
okay.
I think for me, as a young, African, well, Afro Latino,
Hmm.
15-year-old young man, that's grown up within the Bronx for a set period of time,
Mm,
and you know now in Staten Island, I haven't had experiences or opportunities to travel, right?
wow.
And I think that especially in the area that I'm in within the North Shore of Staten Island, a lot of my friends don't even have the opportunities to travel like that. So it's not really a norm for me, right?
Mm,
It's not just something that I'm desensitized to or that you know I'm just accustomed to going to Jamaica or Puerto Rico or whatever. So for me to be able to have that experience and go to Puerto Rico was very eye-opening to me. And that's why I was so shocked and couldn't come to the realization that I was in Puerto Rico, because I could not believe that a young African Latino, well, Afro-Hispanic,
mm.
that's not accustomed or, you know, ever had the experience of even just getting on a plane or going to an airport
Hmm.
was in Puerto Rico. So that's what it was for me.
Wow. Ronald, that is actually a powerful statement. And part of the reason why young black travelers believe in showing young people what traveling is about, but also why we believe in sponsoring those experiences, right? Because of exactly what you said. Because we do know that there are young people like yourself, young people in Staten Island. And I've seen it, especially in New York, where I feel it's a very metropolitan city, but it's interesting to me where places like Staten Island, North Shore Staten Island, Stapleton, I recognize that there was a lot of young people who probably remained in Stapleton. So the vast cultural experiences that one could at least have in New York, because in New York City alone, there are so many cultures present.
Yeah.
It's interesting that many young people from Stapleton or in the city in general don't even experience the different cultures. But
Yeah.
that's one area. But then outside of that, a lot of them also don't experience the world and recognize that the world is very different from New York City, very different from either my suburbs or my hood. And so
And yeah,
it's
that's true.
important to really see the world, understand people, um, because that helps us. And I'm sure, as you begin to have more global experiences, and I'm hoping as you go, when you go to college, and you probably keep doing these study abroad experiences with Eagle, but when you go to college and you probably study abroad, your mind is probably going to start expanding, because you're going to just see different things, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
that's interesting and beautiful, all in one, that this was your experience as an Afro-Latina male who has never left, who have not traveled that far outside the country, and is
Yeah.
being hit with all of these sensory experiences that is kind of like it's playing with your mind. It's like, oh my God, first of all, I'm on a plane, then I'm on the
Listen,
island, the heat, I'm
listen.
hearing Spanish around me.
Yo, when I tell you, it was like I can still feel the breeze sometimes. I can still, smell the, the rice and beans being made on the streets, the empanadas. I can
Ah,
still hear, music from the beach playing down from my hotel down the street. Um,
wow.
Listen, it was literally ineffable. There's no word to describe it.
Wow, wow, wow. And that's what traveling is, right? The
Yeah.
the point, the reason why we travel, and the reason why, again, we advocate youths to travel, is because it opens up your mind, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I do know is that there are many people who are very close-minded, because they've never left the place that they were born. So a lot of
Right.
people are closed-minded. But you start seeing that people, because when people have left and they've gone to different places, their minds are open. Like, even the way they deal with people, they're very open-minded. They
Yeah.
Simone talked to you guys about how she learned when she went to India, when a student shakes her head, what it means, right?
Right.
You it just helps us to be better humans and to be better members of society. So I'm happy that you
Yeah.
actually had this experience.
I think
What
what it was for me, not to cut you off, I think
Mhm.
what it was for me was also just realizing and I said this too. I don't know if you'll, understand it, but to me, it makes sense.
Mhm.
There's time doesn't stop. Time doesn't just only exist within the city, is what I was also telling myself. And what I mean by that is, while we are here in, New York City, there's somebody in Puerto Rico right now making a pina colada on a jet ski somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's not something that we come to realization about. And I think that for me, it's also just realizing that everybody's just especially, globally, from, different countries and, different islands, if you would say, we're all interconnected, but we haven't been able to have the experience to, actually have that connection with people, just because of the distance and, the lack of opportunities that certain people, aren't fortunate enough to have. But yeah, and that's what it made me realize.
Ronald, this is exciting. I love hearing this, and that's actually pretty powerful. Time doesn't stop. Time doesn't stop where you are, right? Like,
Yeah.
New York is not the center of the world, um, and so there's a broader world out there. And I think, even to your point, Puerto Rico and the U.S., I think, is probably 1 hour off at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
But even to that point, when you think about it, someone who's in London, someone who's in Australia, a very different time zone, like a whole day ahead. While we're sleeping in Japan, they are
Mhm.
awake. So right now they're probably sleeping in Japan while we are awake. When we're sleeping, they're gonna be awake, and they're doing their life. They're going about their lives, right?
Right.
And so our world our world is vast, it's different, but it doesn't revolve around us. And I think
Yeah.
it's important that, and to your point, that we recognize that the world doesn't revolve around our realities, around our situations. It's a bigger world than us. And that's I'm happy that you had that experience. But what would you say, what was one of the biggest difference between Puerto Rico and New York City?
Oh, I
Or
mean, there's so many differences. When I tell you there's so many differences, oh my gosh, I mean it. One of the biggest difference is definitely, the weather, the temperature, the heat. Another difference for me that stood out was definitely the food. Oh my god. Oh my
what
god.
was your favorite dish?
So this might sound very, 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 very basic, but it tastes so much different. Like just looking at how it's made, it looks different from your average New York empanada.
Okay.
So I call it a pastelillo.
Mm-hmm.
But it's known as an empanada.
Okay.
So out there it's more doughy. And it kind of looks like a pastry kind of. So
Okay.
your crust that's around the empanada, it's kind of turned. It's not like pressed with a fork like how it is in New York. So, and also what I've noticed is not necessarily crunchy. Like I said, it's more doughy. But it tastes so good. It tastes so good.
Wow.
Yeah. Another thing for me, so definitely food. Um, the beaches. Oh my God, the beaches.
I mean, yeah.
I went on a jet ski.
Wait, say that again?
I went on a jet ski.
Okay. And how was that?
So let me tell you, I have never been on a jet ski before. And I was in Puerto Rico and I was able to go on a jet ski. So I had to, set up with like Venmo and all that stuff because, they didn't have Cash App. So I set up the Venmo. I went on the jet ski, and I had a really, really nice, driver, by the way. And he took me like down. So I was in the middle of the ocean, and the jet ski ride is so much fun. So much fun. So
Right.
much fun.
No, I'm happy that you had that experience. I mean, jet skis are amazing. I remember the last time I went on a jet ski. It probably was in Antigua, uh, and so I remember well, I actually did it twice in Antigua. The first time I remember doing it with my sister. I think we went all the way out. For those of you who's probably listened to this podcast, you've probably been to Antigua. It's on that beach, I think, where Sandals is. And so we went all the way out. There's like, I think, a bird island or something like that.
Yeah.
But the second time I did it in Antigua, I didn't go all the way out because I think I started to realize that the water was getting rough, and I was alone, and I'm like, I don't I don't want to die alone. So I was very careful the second time, even though my sister and I, the first time we did, were on separate jet skis. But
Yeah.
um, but it's a fun activity. Certainly a very tropical activity. So you'll
Yeah.
definitely find jet skiing done in a lot of Caribbean islands. So I'm happy
Yeah.
that you actually had that experience. Did you guys do any other excursions outside of jet skiing?
Outside of jet skiing, we had so I don't want to say we had excursions, but we had different activities to do.
Okay, what were some of those?
So they were going to, getting dance classes. We had dance classes when we went out there. Oh my gosh, going to the rainforest, the tropical rainforest.
What is it called?
El Yunque.
El Yunque.
So what I just found out is on my dad's side of the family. So I'm Caribbean, right? So he's Jamaican. But he's it's just a little bit of background about me. So he was adopted by my grandmother. So, well, his mother, my grandmother now, but, so she, actually has, some family out there in, El Yunque. So I was there, and it didn't really hit me until I got back when I was able to speak to my aunt, and she was like, yeah, we have family out there. And I'm like, wow.
You had family close to the rainforest.
I had family close to the rainforest.
That is amazing. And so what were some of so you did the dance class, you went
Yeah.
to El Yunque. Were things that you learned in school were things connecting when you were on the trip? So for instance, maybe in the rainforest, right? Because I'm sure you've probably learned probably about rainforest, probably in biology and stuff like that.
Right.
What is something that you may have learned in school that really connected while you were there?
So definitely just, your regular average class, learning about what a rainforest is and, how a rainforest is, tropical and how, how it all works and stuff. But what they don't really prepare you or teach you is like what it is actually going into it and experiencing it. Right. And I know that's probably hard because maybe not your average teacher has been to a tropical rainforest or whatever. But, and I tell you, I have, so I bought this like waterproof case or whatever for when I went to the beach or if I went to the pool and I went to record. I had to use that when I was in the rainforest.
Because it was raining.
It was Mr. Cunningham. When I tell you,
you were in the rainforest.
I mean, I know that, but and so it was so much that happened that day. It was raining. When I say rain, I mean pouring rain. It rains to the fact where their streets, on the side of their streets in Puerto Rico and that rainforest El Yucan, when you're going up, you see they have like on the side of the road, they have like I don't want to say, it's kind of like a tunnel that funnels all the rainwater down into like the bottom of a gutter. There you go. That tunnels all the rainwater down to the bottom of the hill. But we were there. I was with Ms. Velasquez and Jaden were doing, the exploration of the rainforest, and we're hiking. And then out of nowhere, crazy rainfall. Crazy rainfall. And it hits you out of nowhere. Like, it hits you out of nowhere. But oh my gosh, when I tell you, it was great. I saw so many waterfalls there. We were able to, cross like a little bridge. They had like a little bridge over the waterfall. I took a nice picture of my Puerto Rican flag there. But I forgot my poncho. So my hair was wet. I was wet. Ms. Velasquez was wet. Jaden was wet. We were just all freaking wet and soaking.
Wow. No, Ronald, I'm happy you say that because, and the reason why I asked the question is I've always said it would be very beautiful, I think, if after students learn something, especially something like maybe in biology, you learned about rainforest, students go to a rainforest, right? Because learning something in a classroom is very different from actually experiencing it. Because that's why traveling is so important because, and it's not necessarily traveling to another country because I'm sure you can, well, if you lived in a tropical destination, you would probably know what it's about. Right. But if those experiences are close to you, you got to go and experience it because I remember, I mean, I've always had this understanding, but I remember when I went to Peru was when I probably had that epiphany, right? Because when I went to Peru, I went to Machu Picchu. And so as I'm at Machu Picchu, and we climbed, like we climbed up early in the morning and we got up to the top. We got to Machu Picchu itself, and I'm just blown away. And I remember learning about Machu Picchu in global history. However, it never really connected until I got to Machu Picchu. But some of the things that just kept on coming to mind was, man, because on the tour, they're talking about how they built this city. And I'm just there and I'm asking myself, how did they build this city thousands of years ago with all this stone, this massive city? And I'm just blown away. And I think they were talking about just how, a lot of the work, how the work was done. And they were just, I guess they just many different things, but I was just blown away by being at Machu Picchu. So learning is very different when you're actually in the context of what that conversation is about. So it is beautiful that you talk about your rainforest experience, because I'm sure if you even go back and even revisit what you would have learned, you probably pick back up, a book and start looking up the animals that are probably typically in rainforest versus a desert.
Oh my gosh, everywhere.
In your mind, it kind of makes more sense now, right? Because you've kind of been in it, so you understand it.
Yeah, so while you were just saying that, it kind of honestly just took me back to, I'm just going to give one of my educators a little plug here, Mr. Ghani, my middle school.
Come on, Ghani.
My middle school history teacher. So one thing that he's always, really instilled in us and taught us was that knowledge is knowledge is good. And, they say knowledge is power, but that's not the entire truth. It's actually applied knowledge is power. So us learning about, a rainforest, yeah, that's good. Let us all understand what a rainforest is and how a rainforest, works. Mm-hmm. But being able to have that experience and have that background knowledge and going to Puerto Rico and being able to, see it. Some people learn differently. Some people are hands-on learners, visual learners, auditorial learners. But still getting that experience and being able to apply my background knowledge and actually getting a visual representation of what I was, being taught within my science classrooms. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
no, that's good. And this is the last question before we go to break. What did you learn about yourself while on this trip?
I learned that I love traveling. I learned that I love traveling.
It's
oh
addictive.
My gosh. It is so addictive. Like Mr. Cunningham, I kid you not. I'm literally planning to go to the England and France next EF tour trip in 2028.
That's where it is next year.
That's where it is next year. And honestly, I can't wait to go because who's gonna know when my next time traveling is? Honestly, if we're being honest, if I'm probably not gonna travel again until I'm an adult.
No, Ronald, you will try. So yes, you don't know what tomorrow bring, but
right.
I think we talked about this when we were when we presented at the school. Right. So you're gonna have a lot more opportunities, I would say. So next year is going to happen, but I would say you do have those opportunities throughout, high school, and thank God Eagle is actually doing this. That's actually really commendable.
Yeah.
A lot of schools do not do study abroad trips for their students. So that's really good for Eagle Academy Staten Island. But also when you get to college, and I always make this plug, I talk about study abroad, and I'll keep talking about it. There are so many other opportunities even outside of study abroad. So you actually have those opportunities. So my advice to you is in those 4 years when you're in undergrad, you could go away every year. And I actually wished I did that earlier, right? Because I also remember even by the time I studied abroad in my last semester of college. And I was even second guessing if I should even do it. And I'm so grateful. Thank you, Charlene, who I actually worked for the Colin Powell School at that time. Charlene was like, "You're going. You have to go." Trinidad and Charlene would be like, "You have to go. You're going." And I'm like, "Okay, Charlene, I'm going." And so I'm so grateful that happened because it was actually at that point. I mean, I've traveled before then. Clearly, I moved from St. Vincent to the U.S., but I hadn't done that level of travel before. And so it was that experience that really opened up my mind to traveling. But again, you are going to have a lot more of these opportunities. And I think it's up to you to utilize those opportunities that you're given. So you have 4 years of college, and I would suggest that you try to start utilizing the time you have at Eagle. You're probably going to be working this summer. So save up for England, save up for the trip that they're doing the next year. And even when you're gonna go to law school because you're planning to be a prosecutor, there are also those opportunities then as well. And it's gonna probably be through internships. So you should probably be thinking about doing internship even outside of New York. So internships in DC. You could do internships at The Hague. I think The Hague is in what country is it? It's in, but that would be a big one. That's the International Criminal Court. These are places that you probably would want to think about interning in those places. And there are so many opportunities that you can use education to actually help you to see the world. So we're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap this entire conversation up with Ronald. So stay tuned with us. to the Young Black Travels podcast. Again, Ronald and I are talking about his trip to Puerto Rico. Um, you've heard a lot. Hopefully, you've learned a lot from this conversation. One of the things that I'm taking away from this conversation, and hopefully you take away from it too, Ronald talked about, learning about something. It's not just about learning about something, or it's really about applying the things that you have learned, right? So hopefully, you probably are learning about a lot of these countries, a lot of cultures. Hopefully, you are going to be applying the lessons that you have learned as well. But before we go on and close out this entire conversation, like we do on all of our podcast episodes, we take a time to shout out one of the Instagram or one of our partners that is close to us. And today on this episode, we're going to be taking the opportunity to shout out Ronald's school, the school that actually took him to Puerto
Yes.
Rico. And I think an amazing institution within New York City. It's an all boys school that is located in the five boroughs of New York City: Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, Bronx, and Manhattan,
There's also
Harlem.
Newark, New
So
Jersey.
Newark, New Jersey. So 6 locations. That's the Eagle Academy. But we're going to be specifically shouting out the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten
Yes.
Island. They're actually on Instagram at Eagle Academy Staten Island. That's EAGLEACADEMY STATENISALND. So go check them out. If you're in the New York City area and you want to find a school, I worked at Eagle at one point, and I do believe it's an amazing institution, amazing opportunities for young men. Clearly, we are talking about one of them.
Thank you.
I mean, again, there's schools across New York City that do not take students to countries across the world. Eagle Academy, Staten Island does. And so I would highly suggest, if you're in New York, if you're on Staten Island, if you're in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, and you're looking for a school, especially if you're a male, Eagle Academy is probably a school that you should definitely consider.
Yes.
All right, so that was a shout out to the Eagle Academy network as a whole, but the Eagle Academy for Young Men of Staten Island. But Ronald, I have just a few more questions for you before we end this episode. And I guess the first question I'll ask you on this way out is, what advice would you give to another young man, another student, a young woman who is going to be studying abroad or who is thinking about studying abroad? What advice would you give to them?
Take it. No, seriously, take it. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone when it comes to travel. I think that travel is needed. I think that everybody, at least once in their lifetime, should definitely get a chance to travel. Please take it with, go into traveling with optimism, go into it with, positive energy, and don't be afraid. I mean, the world is so big. There's so much culture to see. There's so many things to learn. There's so many things to do, so many good food to eat, and so many things to do. Everybody, just please, if you're going to travel, or if you're thinking about traveling abroad, do it, because there's
Just do
nothing
it.
like it.
Wow, that's actually pretty good. Just do it. We all would probably have some level of fear, anxiety at times, but I think that's the lesson in life, right? We just got to jump into certain things that time, especially if you have never done this travel thing, right? You will be nervous, you will have some anxiety, and you will be fearful. But you just got to do it. I actually remember my study abroad experience when I was supposed to go to South Africa, and that was during the time when Ebola first broke out. Now we're having another spate of that currently, right? But
Yeah.
that trip was canceled, and then I remember we had to choose another location.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Argentina somehow came up, and for me, it was what I actually didn't even know where Argentina was. I didn't even know what to expect from Argentina. But ultimately, I went to Argentina. I recognized that it was an all Spanish country. And I think once I realized that it was all Spanish, clearly, I started having all these fears, right? I was like, oh my God, how am I going to communicate? Fear, how am I going to get around? All of these things. But I just did it and I enjoyed it. It was an amazing experience, just like you. But I guess my last question for you is so if you're going to bring another friend, a scholar, a family member, someone who's never been to Puerto Rico with you tomorrow, whenever you go back, what experiences would you want them to do?
So definitely going on the jet ski. I think the jet ski was definitely my number one experience being in Puerto Rico. But coming right behind it would definitely be um, going to the rainforest El Yunque, because while I
Wow.
was there, I got to see, different. I got to learn
Hmm.
about different, animal species there, the history behind the rainforest, and I've also got to see an amazing view inside of the, like cave system that they have within the rainforest.
Hmm.
There's a crazy view, and when I
Huh.
say crazy, I say that in such a good way. And it kind of just shows you a little bit of like what's behind the rainforest, and
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
Wow.
So I definitely recommend going on a jet ski. Definitely go visit the rainforest, and definitely go to the bioluminescent beach. The bioluminescent beach. I
Talk
can't
about
believe.
that a little.
Yeah, I was just about to. I can't believe I didn't say that, Mr. Cunningham. The bioluminescent beach. When we went late at night because it's bioluminescent, so that means that it can only be seen like when it's really really dark.
Hmm.
Um, so when we went, it's pitch black. I mean, no lights there whatsoever. And we're on the boat, right? And we're in the middle of the ocean. And I made a joke. I'm like, I don't know how people do it on a cruise for such a long period of time because it's so dark, you don't see anything. So
Yeah.
honestly, every captain out there, shout out to you guys because you guys be doing it, man. But yeah, so the bioluminescent beach, we were there, and it was crazy. I mean, just jumping in the water when it's pitch black and not knowing what you're gonna expect was scary for me. Like I was very hesitant before doing it. Excuse me, but I did it, and it was amazing. Like just being able to swim. Don't go underneath the water because Puerto Rico has this numbers. The second what is it, like the saltiest water within like the world. Um, Being able to swim and just see like the blueness, the color. It was crazy. It was crazy. I'm like, again, I had a moment of just like trying to come back to realization. You're in Puerto Rico. You're in Puerto Rico, and I think um, it was really really hard for me to kind of just understand that and grasp that. But when I say that, I don't mean it in a negative way. I say that very positively because that's how great the experience was. You're muted, by the way.
Oh, thank you for that. I was about to go on and talk, and I'm muted. But
It's all right.
wow, Ronald, that is actually pretty dope. I've actually never been to the bio. How do you say it?
The bioluminescent bay.
The bioluminescent bay, and
Yes.
my next trip to Puerto Rico, definitely that's something I'm going
Do
to be
it.
putting on
Do it.
my list. And I think our listeners, here is that's an advice for you as well.
Yeah.
Definitely put that on your list as well. So listen, Ronald, I want to say thank you for joining us on today's podcast, and thank you for sharing your experience with us. Hopefully everything that you've shared would have left something with one of our listeners, inspired someone to actually travel, inspire someone to probably even go to Puerto Rico, somewhere else, right? So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we also want to say thank you to our listeners for listening to another episode of the Young Black Travelers podcast. We are really grateful for you to join in today's conversation. We want to say shout out again to our amazing guest, Ronald, for bringing his amazing story, his
Thank
amazing energy and perspective to this show. And we want to say to our listeners, thank you for rocking with us and being a part of a community that believes believes in seeing the world, building connection, and traveling with purpose. If this episode spoke to you, made you smile, or reminded you of your own travel journey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend, in your group chat, or on social media, and help us spread the message. Stay connected with us on all platforms. Facebook at Young Black Travelers, on Instagram at Young Black Travelers Blog, Threads at Young Black Travelers Blog. And don't forget to visit our website at www.youngblacktravelers.com for more stories, updates, and ways to stay plugged into the community. Until next time, this is Young Black Travelers reminding you that our stories matter, our journeys matter, and the world is ours to explore. Happy travels. Till next time.
Till next time.